On July 15, 2025, after spending 30 years on death row, Michael Bernard Bell was executed by lethal injection at Florida State Prison. In this video, we'll uncover what happened, his last meal, and his last words. It all started on a cold December night in 1993 outside a Jacksonville bar. Michael Bernard Bell wasn't there by chance. He was out for blood. Just 5 months earlier, his brother Lamar had been shot and killed by a man named Theodore Wright. The courts ruled it self-defense. But Mike didn't care. He told anyone who would listen, this wasn't over. He was going to settle the score. And he meant it. In the months after the shooting, those close to him heard the same line again and again. He was going to get revenge. And by early December, he was done talking. Through his girlfriend, Erica Williams, Mike got his hands on an AK-47 assault rifle, a 30-round magazine, and 160 rounds of ammunition. He was ready. But the night he made his move, he got something wrong. On the night of December 9th, he spotted what he believed was Theodore's yellow Plymouth parked outside a Jacksonville liquor lounge. But what he didn't know was that Theodore no longer owned the car. He had sold it to his half-brother, 22-year-old Jimmy West, who was inside that night with 18-year-old Tamecka Smith and one of her friends. Mike didn't know that, and he didn't care to check. He rushed home, picked up 2 friends, grabbed the rifle, pulled on a mask, and went back to the lounge. The yellow Plymouth was still parked outside. So they waited. And when Jimmy and Tamecka stepped outside and climbed into the car, Mike stepped out of the dark with one goal in mind: kill Theodore Wright. He never asked who was inside. He just walked up to the open door, raised the rifle, and opened fire. All he saw was a target. He never looked at their faces, never asked who was who. He just started shooting. The first shots tore through Jimmy, 12 rounds in total. He died instantly. Tamecka tried to duck, but 4 bullets hit her. She was still breathing when paramedics arrived, but she died on her way to the hospital. The third woman dropped low, curled into the floorboard, and somehow managed to avoid the bullets flying around. She escaped unharmed. But Mike wasn't finished just yet. He turned toward the crowd outside the lounge. Dozens waiting in line, no clue what was coming. He opened fire again. Witnesses dropped to the pavement as bullets ripped through the front wall. A few stray shots even hit a house nearby, where 3 kids were inside, but by some miracle, none of them were hit. Then, he vanished into the night. Later that night, he showed up at his aunt's place, and when she asked what was going on, he didn't blink. Just stared straight at her and said, "Theodore got my brother, and now I got his." But even though there were a lot of witnesses present when Mike shot Jimmy and Tamecka, it took the police another year to arrest him. The case cracked open in the most unlikely way inside a prison yard. 2 inmates, Henry Edwards and Charles Jones, who were both already serving time on unrelated charges, reached out to investigators with a name. They claimed to know who gunned down Jimmy West and Tamecka Smith outside that Jacksonville lounge. One of them didn't just name names, he said he was there, that he had seen it happen with his own eyes. Skeptics called it convenient. Maybe they were hoping for a deal, some kind of break on their own sentences. But according to the record, neither of them got anything in return. No time shaved off, no favors exchanged, just a sworn testimony in open court, under oath, both pointing the finger straight at Mike. And they weren't alone. Soon, more people stepped up, including Mike's own girlfriend, Erica. She told police something investigators had suspected but couldn't prove. She had helped him get the gun, the AK-47 used in the shooting. She told the investigators that Mike had her buy it just one day before Jimmy and Tamecka were killed. And this was the final link in a chain that had already started to tighten. And now it was only a matter of time. Eventually, Mike was arrested and charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder. But at his trial in March 1995, he claimed self-defense. He said he thought Jimmy was reaching for a weapon and acted out of fear. That argument had worked for Theodore. He probably thought it would work for him too. But the jury didn't buy it. They found him guilty and unanimously recommended the death penalty for both murders. During the sentencing phase, a security guard from the lounge took the stand. He told the court how he and others had to dive for cover that night. He talked about the chaos, the bullets spraying across the lot, the house next door getting hit, and the children inside screaming. And in a shocking turn of events, the state also revealed that Mike had a prior armed robbery conviction from 1990. His mother also testified. She said Mike had been threatened by Jimmy and Theodore. She insisted he had a job, that he was doing fine, and that he wasn't the kind of man to do something like this. But her words didn't sway the court. The jury saw 3 aggravating factors, just one faint trace of a mitigating circumstance, and 2 innocent lives taken. And they responded with 2 death sentences, one for Jimmy's murder and one for Tamecka's. And from that point on, the countdown began. But that wasn't all. During the trial, Mike confessed to even more. Long before the AK-47 ambush that would land him on Florida's death row, he had already left a trail of violence behind, things no one knew. It started in 1989 when Mike was just 19. That September, he was driving through Jacksonville with his then-girlfriend, LaShawn Cowart, and her 2-year-old son, Travis. No one knows exactly what was said inside that car, but whatever it was, it pushed him past the edge. He pulled over, stepped out, and opened fire. LaShawn died instantly, and so did her toddler. Mike claimed he killed her because she cheated on him, but no explanation could justify the choice he made. 4 years passed. Then another body hit the ground. On August 18, 1993, Michael Johnson, his mother's boyfriend, lay dead on a front porch, shot multiple times after an argument. People close to the family said Michael had a reputation. He was abusive, the kind of man who hit when he didn't get his way, and that day wasn't any different. But this time, Mike was done. He didn't confront him during the fight, but waited, tracked him down later at his house, and pulled the trigger. And by the time the full story was out, when Mike confessed to everything he had done in the past, it was clear this wasn't about losing control once. This was a pattern. 3 shootings, 5 people dead, and now it had finally caught up to him. For these prior killings, Mike received an additional 25-year sentence. For the next 30 years, Mike sat on death row, and his defense attorneys tried everything. They said his trial had been tainted by racial bias, that the prosecutor called him a man who lived by the law of the jungle, and even his own defense attorney repeated it in front of a mostly white jury. They also pointed to inconsistencies in witness statements and questioned whether the jury truly considered Mike's age or mental state, but none of it worked. Every appeal failed. Then, in June 2025, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signed his death warrant, making Mike the 8th person the state planned to execute that year, a number that hadn't been seen in decades. Florida was now executing people faster than any other state, and people across the country were starting to notice. Mike's execution was set for July 15th. But just weeks before that date, something unexpected happened. A man named Henry Edwards came forward. Back in the 90s, he had been the state's key witness, the one who told the jury he stood on the corner and had watched Mike pull a ski mask over his face, walk up to a yellow car, and open fire. He had sworn under oath that he wasn't getting anything in return. No deal, no favors, just the truth. But now, in a new sworn statement, Henry admitted he had lied. He said he hadn't seen the shooting at all. He was inside a store when it happened and only heard the gunshots. What really happened, he claimed, was that Detective William Bolina told him exactly what to say. William had shown him Mike's photo and coached him on how to testify. And in return, he would get time out of jail. According to Henry, the message was clear: say what you're told or else. He admitted he felt threatened, and he wasn't the only one. Just 2 days later, on June 18th, another man came forward, Charles Jones. Back in 1994, he had also been in jail when Detective Bolina showed up. They already knew each other. William had once dated Charles's sister, but this time it wasn't about family. It was about a deal. Charles claimed that William and prosecutor George Bate told him exactly what to say. They needed him to testify that Mike had confessed and that he had tried to sell the murder weapon afterward. And in exchange, they would help reduce Charles' own charges. And when Charles hesitated, they reminded him what was on the line. If he would change his story, he would pay for it. So he agreed and told their story, not the truth. But in 2025, the story changed. Now he said the confession never happened, that there was no gun deal, that his testimony was coached, rehearsed, and rewarded. And if he was telling the truth now, this wasn't just a mistake. It was fabrication. Evidence shaped and twisted to help put someone on death row and maybe bury the truth. Mike's legal team moved fast. They filed new motions, hoping this revelation might be enough to stop what was coming. But the judge didn't see it that way. He ruled the new claim wouldn't have changed the verdict, wouldn't have changed what the jury had already decided. So the date stayed locked in place. On Tuesday, July 15, 2025, Mike woke up at 6:30 in the morning. He had a final meal of an omelet, bacon, home fries, and a glass of orange juice. Afterward, he met with a spiritual advisor, but no one else came to visit. He had filed a last-minute appeal, hoping the U.S. Supreme Court would intervene, but they denied his request. And with that, the clock kept moving. At 6 p.m., he was strapped to the gurney inside the execution chamber. The IV lines were inserted, and the warden stepped forward to ask if he had any last words. Mike looked up and said, "Thank you for not letting me spend the rest of my life in prison." And with that, the drugs began to flow. His chest rose once, then settled. A few minutes later, at 6:25 p.m., he was pronounced dead. Michael Bernard Bell was 54 years old. What do you think? Has justice been served? Let us know your thoughts in the comments.